All right, what's going on, guys? I am here. Impact is greater than influence. Unplugged, making an impact. Rodney Waits. We got Josh Morin with us here today. Josh, I really couldn't give you the introduction you deserve, man. You are such an inspiration, man. You've got multiple companies. You're an entrepreneur. You're a visionary, and you've been a friend of mine now for the past couple of years. And I'm just so glad, man, that you're able to actually have a conversation with me. And I've enjoyed getting to catch up with you, but let's inspire some people, man. Tell us a little bit
Thank you.
about you.
Well, first off, thank you so much, Rodney, for having me on here. And this is a beautiful opportunity to connect and collaborate. See a lot of great things that you're doing in your life that we're in alignment with. And in terms of my own personal endorsement, I'm just a soul having a human experience. I'm just here for the journey and the ride. I'm letting God pave the path for me. I'm just following through on what I feel destined to. And I have my feet dipped in a few different interests and things, but ultimately just maintaining a level of understanding that this life is temporary, and I'm just going to do all I can to live to its fullest.
Mm. Yeah, such an incredible truth to live, though. So even that itself is outstanding, man.
Thank you. Yes, it's one thing especially, and I know we'll get into it, but in terms of my sobriety, that's just one thing that I've just been doing lately in the last 3.5 years now, is one day at a time. That's all that we have, is one day at a time. So I'm just going to live today as I would if it was my last day.
I love it, man. But yeah, you're right. We'll get into that. I love your story. I like the fact that you've overcome so much. And let's kind of just rewind back to the point when I first met you. Like we
Okay.
met via social media,
Right.
right?
Yes.
And you were currently starting with your dad, the fueled supplements.
Yes.
Tell us where that came in and where that,
So, and who was our point of contact is Jeffrey Combs, correct?
I think so. I believe so.
Yeah. So did you coach with Jeff?
No, I think that I had actually just got referred to you because I had actually inquired and then just got sent to a good dude who was a like-minded individual, followed you, started buying the product, and just became a Josh fan.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, Rodney. So yeah,
For sure, bro.
I had just gotten off of a survival show called The Wheel in South America, and I went on this journey in South America that was on Discovery Channel, and I had a complete emotional breakdown. I was in the survival situation. I lost 30 pounds in 3 weeks. I've starved for 16 days in a row, and so I came back off of the show, and I was at a transitional point in my life. I was living in Kauai, building a meditation facility. I was living in a renovated tour bus with an ex-girlfriend at the time. I was living this like very vagabond hippie lifestyle, and I broke up with that woman and moved back into my basement of my dad's house. And I didn't think I'd be there at 22 years old. Got this opportunity to be able to go on this Discovery Channel show, went on the show, learned a lot about myself, but ultimately it was like the first time that like really broke me down. And when I was on that show, they allowed me to have a journal. So every day I'd write in my journal. I wrote like 150 pages in a journal. And
Wow.
the idea of field supplements had actually come to mind when I was down in Patagonia. And so the whole vision of field supplements, the branding, the look, everything came to my mind sight whilst I was on that show. I get back from the show. I reach out to my dad and I said, "Hey, Dad." My dad had been involved in two other companies prior, and he had some interesting and challenging situations being in business with others, and some of the situations fell through and weren't congruent with his morals, etc.
Yeah.
And so I went to him and said, "Hey, you have the knowledge and understanding of the market space, of ingredient profiles, of formulations, etc. You've been in the industry now for 30 plus years. I had this new school marketing, social media influence promotion on my end to be able to draw in branding and business and on an online market. Let's
Yeah.
take some old school principles and let's put it with new school and see what we can come up with." So yeah, that was October of 2017.
Brilliant. Wow. Okay. That's great. So when that actually all happened and the Discovery Channel and everything else, what were you thinking like when it comes to your entrepreneur journey? Like a lot of people that really go through the entrepreneur journey itself, they get to these points where they hit these sticky points and then they hit these heights where they're like, wow, how did I get here? And it's just very ebb and flow, up and down. Like, what were you thinking when all that was going on? Were you just coming back determined and you were like, I can feel a switch has just came on?
Absolutely. That's just felt just invigorated and inspired. And I had first gotten into entrepreneurship when I was 18 years old. I was in a network marketing business called Vima. And so it through a handful of people that through my organization, I had over 1,000 people in my organization with Vima.
I
And
did Vima as well.
yeah, so that might be another connection.
I
What team
think
are you
so
on?
too. Yeah, that's
Yep.
great.
What team were you on? Who's like some of the leaders?
Andrew Zambetti.
Okay. I don't think I know Andrew. Do you know the Sarvers?
Not off top of the head, but I love that company, didn't you?
I loved it, man. You know, it was for me, I always knew growing up that I was going to be a business owner. My dad's in free enterprise. He's owned brick and mortar tanning and supplement shops in his entire life. And so
Wow.
I at least had a good mentor in terms of like business and entrepreneurship, and it was encouraged in the household.
Yeah.
And so I always knew that that's what I wanted to do. And when I was 18, I got presented this opportunity, but I was wrestling for Arizona State at the time, and it just really blew up. And it was the first time that I got introduced to personal development, reading books, listening to mentors. And so how I started to see and view the company is it was personal development with a payment plan.
Yeah.
And so I started to buy into the process. I had a large organization. And then during all of this, I actually underwent 4 back surgeries, ended my
Mhm.
wrestling career at Arizona State. And so I made a transition full time into network marketing when I was 20. And then obviously whatever happened to Vima happened to Vima. And so there's that spike that you're talking, the ebbs and flows, that spike, and 19, 18, 19 years old saying, man, we're going to take over the world. I had,
100%.
yeah,
Yes.
all these different people, you're all fired up and you're like, this is it, baby. I'm going to become rich. I'm going to be a millionaire. And you're around all these
Right.
different people. And then all of a sudden,
Gone.
right. And you're like, damn, dude, I'm only 20 years old now. What the fuck am I going to do?
That's exactly right.
And so that's where I felt like that first spike and fall. And I had also gone through, a challenging situation with my back surgeries and all the time spent in the hospital and all the challenges involved in that. And at that point in my life, I was fairly lost, and I was doing things here and there. I got into door-to-door sales. I ended up
Mm.
actually moving to Utah, coaching wrestling for a while, completely forgetting about money. And then that transition led to me living in Hawaii, and then back to Montana, pretty much living out of a shitty Toyota T100 pickup truck,
Mm.
with my belongings pretty much being able to fit in my truck with me. And, so that was like the first spike and fall. And then I got that chance to go into the Discovery Channel just to bring this all back into, where the fruition of Fueled Start is. I went on the Discovery Channel, and there was a point in me that was like, man, I love the vagabond lifestyle, but I was just so lost. I was trying to find myself through all these different facets and things, and I didn't really have any purpose in life. I didn't have a way of really generating income. I was just doing whatever I could to make money, and I refused to get a job at the time, which is something that I think is great now, but back then it wasn't the greatest thing. Probably should have got a job and actually made some cash, but I made it. I made it through, and then when I went on that show, it said, hey, I think it's time for me to get serious about the rest of my life, or just, at least the rest of this next year or two,
Yeah.
and put something in place for me that I can commit to and build on.
Yeah. That's huge, man. Yeah, I have a crazy heartfelt story myself that kind of led to those ebbs and flows, those ups and downs. And it's so amazing to see how much we can overcome out of desperation and out of conviction and out of certainty of knowing like what's to come is like something I'm ready to take on. Because, like you said, I actually would be like that too. I'd be like, I'm not going to go work for somebody. And if I do, I'm going to go make some cash doing some waiting tables and then go back to doing what I'm going to do and cleaning cars and building businesses and all of that. So I can relate to that a ton.
I just remember when I was at the very first Vima convention that I ever went to, and I wrote in the back of a notebook, which I still have, and this is the first time, it was the first time I ever heard the term psychologically unemployable. And I had hired Jeffrey Combs when I was 19 years old, and he has a book called Psychologically Unemployable, and it stuck to me. And from then, I just said, I not that I have beef on it. I think jobs are and other opportunities are great for people to get. Just for me personally, I was at 19 years old. I made a commitment to be psychologically unemployable, and
Wow.
I've never worked a job in my life.
That's perfect. I mean, shoot, I can actually really relate to that because, yeah, I get it that a lot of people definitely could use a job or like a sense of purpose and career. And those times, do come hand in hand, like for some people. But for people like us who are motivated, we don't have to be. This is what I say. I say you have to be inspired, and you can't motivate someone who isn't inspired, right? Well, we've been inspired our whole lives. We've gone through all the tough times that have led us to be to here. And if we don't want to go work a just over broke, then I completely get it. That's exactly how I viewed it as well. You mentioned door-to-door sales. I'm curious. Did you do Cutco by
No,
chance?
I did solar.
Solar. Okay. All right.
I was an OG. I was like, that was in 2000. That would have been 2015, 16. That's like
Yeah,
that was like the frontier days of solar, man.
it was.
Did
People
you cut? Did you
definitely
cut
all.
those? Did you sell knives?
I did.
Yeah. How was your
Sold Cutco
experience?
knives. Mostly I sold them to family and then like a couple different friends' families. Not even the friends. It was like, hey man, I really need to just come and show you this demonstration. You'd be blown away. And I would be so into it. Like that's the actual like really hard part about when we did those network marketing companies and stuff. We embodied something that we thought we were so believing in, right? And then once it kind of went away, it was like we just found identity in something else.
Right.
Mhm.
100%. I've actually never had the Cutco demonstration.
Yeah,
Were the knives actually legit?
they're fantastic.
Really? All right.
Pretty great
Yeah.
knives. I don't know if I have some to bust out for you and start to do a demonstration, but I can tell you I definitely enjoyed it. I was like cutting
Sweet.
the pennies and like cutting like the like cans and all kinds of stuff, man. You'd be
Wow.
just so surprised. It was crazy.
That's
But
cool.
I love the entrepreneur mindset, man. So tell me about like I know you were saying mentioned like the back surgeries and the knee surgeries. Did that all come from the complications of wrestling?
Yes. So, yeah, I mean, I started the first knee surgery that I ever had. I was 15, and then I had one when I was 16, and then in high school I had two dislocated elbows, and then I got into my first year of college wrestling at Arizona State, and then I had a back surgery that led into a series of three additional back surgeries in 9 weeks, and then yeah, so all of my injuries have come from. I don't even. A lot of them haven't even come from like wrestling directly. A lot of them just have come from training, overtraining, the level of intensity of training that I went through for such a long time. I've been training at a high level. I mean, I started to like look back and like calculate the hours of training that I've put in over like a 13, 14 year time period. And it's a lot. It's
Yeah, it is.
a lot of miles. And so, 4 to 5 hours of my life for about 12 years were training. So
Yeah,
I was training about 4 to 5 hours, doing some sort of workout in the morning, or if it was lifting or wrestling practice, there's a lot of hours that were put in for a lot of years. And that's one thing when it comes to wrestling, it's just interesting how wrestling compares to a lot of different sports. It's like you see a lot of guys peak really early, guys peaking at like 17, 18 years old, when in reality, like, at 17, 18 years old, you already have 10 plus years of miles on you. And it becomes just simply a war of attrition at that point. And wrestling has one of the highest attrition rates of any sporting activity and any athletic endeavor out there. One out of every 8 kids quit every single year because it's tough. And the thing is the long term is that wrestling long term, as I know so many guys that never went to the highest levels, but are definitely dudes that, I mean, this is with any sport, of course,
yeah,
but I think wrestling is like one of the most apparent ones where like guys that could have been on a podium, they just
right.
couldn't escape the attrition.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I can imagine that is something that you've got to be able to be really great at and really skilled very early. You've got to have that ability to be able to know if that's going to be for you, I'm sure, very early. And if you had that much passion for it and you went through all of that to get to where you're at now, I mean, I see you still actively are participating in some wrestling, right?
I just came out of retirement a few weeks ago just to do a couple roles.
I like it. It looked
I'm
good.
I'm a little thick now and, a little out of shape, but I got a really good friend of mine and an athlete at Field. Actually, we're coming out with a pre-workout based around him, but he's
Awesome.
he's a black belt, got his black belt in 5 years. He's a world-class power lifter. His name's Jimmy House. And so we've been doing these Saturday grapple and gains, and it's cool. Jimmy and I have a really good relationship. I got into the powerlifting a little over a year ago. And so
Yeah.
Jimmy's been assisting me with the powerlifting side, and I've been cleaning up a lot of his wrestling. So it's a really cool partnership.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I've actually bought a ton of your pre-workout before some of the previous ones. And I think I saw one that you were just advertising. I think it was like IMNF or something like that.
Yeah, one NMF. Yeah, one nasty.
There, one nasty. I like that, dude. I would have never guessed that. It's that legit, huh? I need to order some.
Yeah, it's 32 grams of just pure performance. There's no carbs in there. There's no aminos in there. There's no fillers. I mean, you're getting 32 grams of performance ingredients, which is, it's like literally a protein scooper.
I love that. That's awesome. And a lot of your stuff, actually, y'all's company had put out the most tasty protein I've ever had in my life.
Well, I love hearing that. Thank you so much. Yes.
Yeah,
I stand strong behind our protein, I believe I've been drinking. First off, like I think I'm a little not even biased. I just feel I've been drinking protein since I was like 6 years old. And so, yeah, the protein that I was drinking back then versus the protein that I'm drinking now is not even the same.
Yeah, awesome, man. And I see it. You live your product. You know what I mean? Like, you are a product of your product.
Thank you. Yes. And for me, like when we sat down and developed our line, there's so many different ways to develop business and products and whatnot. And a lot of companies, and I can see why they would do this, is a lot of companies have a marginal product with a grand slam marketing scheme. So instead of putting money into the quality of the product, they make a product that is average, to say average, but then they take that extra capital and then they pump it into the marketing, the branding, all this. We actually did the complete opposite. We had very, very little ad expenditure and put the bulk of our capital, our working capital, into product development. And we truly believe that our products are in the top 1 or 2% in terms of ingredient dosing, in terms of effectiveness, infectious. And so all these different things, all these different variables that are involved in the supplement industry, we don't want to cut corners for profitability. It's been a little bit of a growing process in terms of income, because just straight up, our products cost 2 to 3 to sometimes 4 times as much per SKU versus a lot of other products that are on the market that are getting sold for the same price.
Yeah. And a big thing about that is it's not only the quality you shot for and 100% attain, but it's the story around that. It's why you're wanting to do that. Like, you're also wanting to partake in taking this stuff every single day. And you're also wanting to have the consumer come back because of the quality of not only the actual product, but the lifestyle that you're selling with it. Because you actually do mindset coaching, you do men's warrior groups. I mean, you're all about that effective change that's needed to push this product, and it's worth it, I'm sure, to have that incremental change when it's with the right people. Am I right?
Absolutely. I would, first off, if I'm going to make a product, I want it to be the best product because I'm going to be taking it.
That's right.
I mean,
100%.
My dad and I always go to the same discussion almost every time when we're in new product development. It's like, do we pull back and we save ourselves some cash and, this and that. And then we always end up with a product that's like 3 times the amount of money that we wanted to spend, because we're like, well, this is what I want in there because I'm going to take this. And so it's like, it's so funny because we're always like, do we pull back just a little bit? And then it's like, we always go back to our roots of saying, hey, no way, man, I'm taking this product on the day to day. I want to live, die, and breathe, and buy this product. And then I feel like that definitely translates into anything else I do. I would never tell somebody to do something that I'm not doing myself, and just lead by being my best that I can one day at a time. And that's ultimately that all you can do is as a business owner.
100%. Well, let's fully encompass this in the entrepreneur realm and tell me a little bit about all the companies that you own and effectively manage or have a part in right now, and what that looks like for either now and what you hope for it to be.
Sweet. Well, I'm going to do this as quickly and as effectively as I can because I don't want to get super long-winded. But so the supplements, we've talked about the supplements. I'm in that with my dad. We just hit year number 5. We're really looking to scale. We're bringing in Jimmy House. We're doing this collaboration with the Powerhouse line, Jimmy House inspired line of products. So we got a new pre-workout on the way, and then followed up with that will be actually 3 additional products that will be part of this exclusivity line. So field is still growing. My dad is definitely getting more involved on the online side of things. We're going to be going more wholesale, even though brick and mortar seems to be dead these days. There's still some places and different situations where
there's some validity in location picking. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the one thing that I can tell, like for a fact, is so my dad owns a brick and mortar store in Montana for the last 30 years. Montana is like 30 years behind the rest of the world. So like Phoenix, what's going on down here in the trends and the selling and buying trends is definitely not the same what's happening in Montana, but that's totally cool with us. And then transitioning now, kind of opening it up to the other different endeavors that I have. I do breakthrough coaching, letting go and addiction coaching. So I'm continually scaling that. I got my certificate of addiction and breakthrough coaching through Jeffrey Combs. So awesome. Jeffrey Combs, my mentor. I've been now working with him on and off for the last 10 years, but specifically last 4 years in a row. So he's been a valuable mentor and asset to my life. And so now I'm really building on what Jeff's built. He's coached over, I believe now he's at 17,000 coaching clients. And he has like 70,000 coaching hours.
Wow.
So, I mean, I don't plan on, that's not my mission purpose in life. You know, I've been able to, I don't want to coach but I have so many different other things going on, but coaching is something that I feel that I have a skill set in, and I feel a lot of purpose about, just because of what I've gone through. And I really feel that I can really assist others in that same situation of breaking through, understanding why they do what they do, getting to the root cause of effect, understanding traumas and different events and creating perpetual cycles of addiction, etc. Really getting down to the root cause, beginning to separate yourself from the events that shape feelings, and really stepping into this clarity, understanding, acceptance, and begin to surrender to the old and really create this new pathway of enlightenment consciousness. And that's one thing with Jeff that he's really assisted me in, is taking prosperity and consciousness, prosperity consciousness. He's one of the best in the world to do that. And for me, my pathway has been through recovery and sobriety. Then that moves into now like the men's group. I'll go into the men's group after Sonicals. So Sonicals is a business that I operate, that we're doing mobile trailered saunas, and I'm in the process of launching our cold plunges. Yes. So currently it's like real grassroots, man. Like we're at the ground floor. I built 2 plunges. I've built 2 cold plunges. I just bought a trailer. It's literally sitting in my garage right now. We got it stripped out. We're ready to redo the entire thing. Throw a sauna in there. So I have a really cool vision for that. But in the meantime, I got introduced to breath work. I got introduced to cold plunging, deliberate cold exposure, contrast therapy a few years ago. And so when I was in Las Vegas last year, Natural Sciences really took me under their wing to show me the systems and the methodologies and the importance of all this. I came back to Phoenix from Las Vegas, and I just knew, I knew when I came down here what I seek to create, because I had all this clarity from Las Vegas last year. So I started doing cold plunging in my backyard with my brother-in-law. That led to then me having groups at my house on Sundays. And I've only missed, I believe, since January 16th, I've only missed 4 Sundays of cold plunging.
That's dedication, man.
So every single Sunday, I work pro bono. It's donation based. I don't charge anybody. Every single Sunday you come over, we do an hour worth of breath work. We all get in the cold plunge afterwards. And so I really created and cultivated this community down here of like-minded individuals that are truly living in their purpose. And that's been the most beautiful thing, is to see that. That's one factor of my life I felt missing over the last few years, was I didn't have a community around me. I like a tribe. And I had this big online community. I had plenty of people. I mean, you see you in Florida, and I got friends here and I got friends here, but I didn't have that in my own backyard.
Right.
And for me, I said, I know, it's like, I always hear people say, like, man, I wish there was people like that around me. And I said, first off, become that person. And secondly, there's people saying what you're saying right now in the same place that you're saying it, dude.
There.
I said,
That's
open
so
yourself to connect with these people. There, when you stop putting the blocks on this, people will become flowing into your life with ease and effort, and all of a sudden you'll start to have these relationships with people and be like, man, it feels like we've known each other for years, and I have this level of understanding without even understanding or even knowing you, because you know that you know. And it's just that's what divine entanglement is. That's what it is. I mean, people are meant to be in your life, and you attract them from the ether like this. And so when I came down here, now the community here in Phoenix, you definitely got to take a trip out. I'd love to have you out. We could do some podcasting stuff. We could do a whole weekend out of it, create some content. Yeah. And so just to really introduce you to the community that's here, because I'm not the only one. I always tell people on Sundays, I said, this truly isn't my thing. This is our thing. Because if you didn't show up, everybody that's been here in the last 10 months, I didn't know 10 months ago.
Wow.
Not a single person.
Yeah.
And so they started showing up, and 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 inviting people and bringing more people. And all of a sudden this thing just started to go like this and expand. And so then that business led into the retreats, surrender. And to soar, you must surrender. So I created a fellowship of men down here that are stepping into sobriety. So on Thursday nights, we do sobriety and Bible study meetings where we've created our own fellowship. There's a handful of us that are in recovery, going to AA, in the AA fellowship as well. On top of that, we're doing our own. And so just all these men truly committed, these men that are repairing their marriages, wanting to be in monogamous relationship, letting go of these different addictions, their sex addiction, their porn addiction, their drinking addiction, all these different addictions that have plagued the world, and really getting back to who we truly are and our masculinity, our rooted masculinity, as I feel that there's been like this war on masculinity and this toxic masculinity. You hear it all the time. You want to get canceled for it. And in reality, it's about men truly taking charge of their own sovereignty, stepping into a body that's autonomous, being aware of their character defects, being willing to step into change, ask God to remove their character defects, because you're in a body that's acceptance, and accepting the things that have happened, and allowing yourself to move with grace one day at a time. And that's what's happened with the Surrender brand. And so this next weekend, so I go to Miami this weekend. Next weekend, Sammy Listo, my co-collaborator on the events and my co-host, he's a singer-songwriter out in California. He jams, and he's a firefighter. So
awesome. Heard his music while you were actually cold plunging.
Yes. He rocks, man. And so Sammy's coming out. He wrote a song after we did our first men's retreat in Montana in August. He wrote a song whilst he was there, and he's recorded it. This next weekend, we're shooting the music video for it, and then we're launching the retreat. Surrender X is what we're going to call it. We're only doing 2 weekends. I initially proposed six retreats next year, but I was quickly humbled by my beautiful fiance and mother to be that were having a child and getting married, and so I really allowed myself to step into some humility, and I said, "You're right. I will be committed to this family, be present as a father. That's at my forefront. A father first, and then everything else. God, being a father, sobriety, and then everything else. And so so that's going to be beautiful. We're going to be doing 2 weekends this year, back-to-back weekends in August, 24 total spots for these men. I know that probably more than half of them have already recommitted.
Wow.
And so, yeah. So yeah, really looking forward to
Only takes
that.
one, right? It really only
That's it.
takes one.
And that's what I did last year. I've never done it before. I've never done a retreat before. I never hosted it. And Sammy and I were going back, and we're creating the schedule, and we're envisioning and creating in our mindset of what we seek to have happen. And there was a few times where I felt where I was getting overwhelmed a little bit,
Yeah.
because we had 15 men this last year, and there's all these different moving parts, and we have guys flying in from Chicago. We had people coming in from California and down from Canada, and this big collaboration of people. And I just one day I took a really deep breath, and I said, Sammy, I said, you and I have both spent a lot of times in the middle of the mountains, in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere, in complete
Yeah.
isolation. I said, if we did nothing, I mean, I'm telling you, if we just went up there for a camping trip,
Mhm.
in and of itself, the experience is life changing. And I said, if we remove that force, and don't put this pressure and this burden on us that we have to make it this extravagant thing, and just let it curate, and let it build, and let it cultivate into what it's supposed to be. I know this is going to be a most beautiful thing that we've ever done. And I'll have to say, I can't even explain it, to be honest with you. All I can say is it's hands down the most powerful thing that I've ever done in my entire life.
I can't thank you enough for leading me into this, because this is exactly why this that I'm doing exists. What you just said is that chase of you wanting to make sure that it was something larger than life, and it was something extravagant, and it's all your visions that will eventually come to fruition. You said, well, it's okay to just focus on the significance and the quality of it and watch it progress and have it do it for a certain reason that's bigger than yourself. That's what this whole thing's about, that I'm talking to entrepreneurs about, that I'm talking to individuals who have depression, that I'm talking to individuals who are seeking identity in those newfound truths that are really practical. So what you
Yeah.
just shared is the whole brand of impact is greater than influence, because no matter what kind of influence you do or do not think you have, you need to first focus on creating impact in that other person's life. And that to me is lasting change, showing that you actually care, showing that you're there to listen, and having the emotional bandwidth to be able to take on more than just your own problems.
Depth over distance, baby.
That's it,
And
man.
depth. And that's one thing that I know for certain is these men that went on that retreat. I mean, the level of impact. I mean, the influences are here nor there. The thing is the beautiful thing about it is that I didn't have a page. I didn't have a business plan. It was literally saying, hey, man, this is the first time that I'm doing it. I can't oversell this. Just if you trust in me, I trust in you. And if you're willing to show up and just be your best and do your best, this will be a life-changing experience. And 15 men bought in. They bought
Perfect.
in. That's all it took, man. It just was a belief. I mean, and they just trusted. And I said, but if you just buy in,
Yeah.
just trust. If you just trust, you don't have to force it. You don't have to do any. I didn't even have a page, man. I didn't even have a.
Awesome.
I didn't even. It was just that I literally one night it came to me. I said, I made a post on my Instagram. I said, hey, I'm thinking about putting on a retreat in Montana.
Yeah.
It's going to be $500 to cover all the expenses and costs and things that we're going to do for you. It's $500. It's sold out in 72 hours, 15 guys. And
Perfect.
yeah, and I said, let's get it, baby. Like,
Let's do it. You're like, the rest will come.
it's and now it's built into something much bigger. I'm looking into potentially having like I don't want to say like a cabin seems very limited, but essentially I'm going to build my own conscious resort in Montana. That's the 3-year vision. And
Perfect.
so you could go there, and we're going to have these different types of events and experiences and teachers and practitioners. And so you can go there, and it's just this place of isolation in the most beautiful places in Montana, which I believe are some of the most beautiful places in the States and the world. I'm obviously a little biased, but
Yeah.
and
Isn't Prey in Montana?
what's that?
Prey isn't that a part of Montana?
Praymont, is it a city?
I think so. Isn't
Pray?
it?
Maybe. It could
I don't
be.
know. I actually have a mastermind that I just became a part of, and one
Okay.
of the trips I thought was to Prairie, Montana. Maybe I just am thinking because you're talking about a serene, beautiful location, and I'm just like painting this picturesque view of Montana because I've never been. I know that obviously I know it from your farm sushi brand and who you partnered with and everything in like your past, but I've never been. But I think that's what it is.
Okay.
It might be.
Pray. Well, it doesn't ring a bell, but it wouldn't surprise me. Montana is like its own country within of itself. So
That's
yeah, it's so spread out. It's funny. It's like, but outside of Alaska, it's population density. It's the best. I mean, it's like, uh, I don't even know the exact square mileage per person, but it's ridiculous.
That's insane, man. Well, you've shared so much, and I want to thank you for being vulnerable and open about like how you obviously give your value to the world. And just so you know, you're 100% well received every single time. I love the clubhouse calls. You have a newsletter that comes out like clockwork. You have all these ways of creating a story around your brand. You put God first. You're going to have an amazing family to be able to provide for. But when it comes to somebody looking at you now and looking at potentially where they could be, help me give a little bit more insight on how you could actually best serve someone with a message if they're wanting to do all that what you're doing and they're wanting to actually manage effectively all these things and working pieces, but they're overwhelmed or maybe even like stuck in depression. What would you say to them?
I'd say then that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And in the moment that you can step into that position and understand that you're not, there's the future is an outcome that hasn't happened yet. And you can take utter and full responsibility and acceptance of saying, this is where I'm at. These are the decisions that I've made. Then it's going to relieve a lot of, number one, anxiety, number two, depression, three, these unresolved feelings that you've held on to your past. And then from there, it's committing to the process one day at a time and understanding that change isn't hard, change is just new. And change is a daily discipline practice, and there's going to be emotional relapses, there's going to be discipline relapses, and it's just all part of the journey. And if you understand that if you lead your life with grace and begin to be less of the critical villain of your own story and really stepping to understanding, saying, hey, you know what, I'm granting myself this serenity, or ask God to grant you that serenity and that grace for yourself, and step out of being so critical of your situation and saying, just take a deep breath, say, you know what, it's all okay. I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. It will make sense. It doesn't have to make sense today. I don't have to see it all today, but over time, as you begin to shed the layers of trauma, shed the layers of your old self, of the person you've doubted, that you start to step into this new command center of your life. And as you do that, you rebuild your esteem. Most of us are little broken children that grew up to be adults. And so we have bills to pay, money to make, we have relationships and all these different things, but we're navigating through these old programs that we established when we were young. And now it's time to renew yourself, completely get rid of the old circuit board and start to establish a new circuit board. But in the process, what I teach people one day at a time is that just understand that you're not going to, change isn't always linear, and understand that it's not going to be an overnight situation. So enjoy the process day to day. Don't get lost in the big vision of it. If you just focus here, the vision will come, and all that you have is today ultimately.
It's perfect, man. I love it. Definitely couldn't have said it better myself. And I think focusing on having that prerequisite before whatever type of influence you want to lead comes with impact. And I want to tell you, man, you're a powerful leader of impact, 100%.
Thank you, Rodney. I appreciate you, and you deliver so much value, and I'm looking forward to seeing this grow, man, and seeing the impact that this has on so many people's lives. And I've seen your own progression of your own journey, which has been beautiful and inspiring. And I tell people all the time that that's a big inspiration and big energy in my life, is seeing other people doing it, man. I mean, there's enough opportunity in this world. There's a limited amount of peace and love in this world for all of us to be able to live in it. And I love seeing others being able to step into that position. I see you have a beautiful, significant other now as well.
Amazing. That's
So
her kid right over there.
I love it. What a
Yeah.
blessing.
Phenomenal, phenomenal, man. Say hey, Easton.
What's
Give a
up,
little
dude?
hand waving. That's my
I
friend
love it.
Josh. That's
I
him,
love it.
man. Yeah, playing the everyday role of the step dude and just kind of just making this work for the best I can make out of it. Because at the end of the day, my values and all of my visions and everything are going to always be complemented by this life that I'm choosing. It's never going to be derailed. You know, you think about people that have a ton of momentum and they go toward these goals and then they have kids or they have something that kind of makes them feel like they're just deterring this way that would have been the best way for them. I mean, God puts these people in your life for a reason.
They do.
I didn't agree anything, but Easton. Guns and Roses. Let me finish up. I'm done in a second. No, Willie Rossetti. He thinks I'm over here talking trash, man. You'll get me in trouble.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's too.
I love it,
100%.
man. Well, listen, man, I've enjoyed the time to be with you. I can't wait to see what we can do. I'd love to be able to see if Megan wants to come visit you. I don't know if you've been seeing it, but I've been cold plunging, man. I've plunged like 4 or 5 times now.
All right.
Looking forward to it. So where can people go if they want to go learn more about you, all your companies, your visions, your breakthrough seminar, anything that they want to follow you on and help support you on?
Yeah. So the easiest way to find me is on Instagram at Morin, MorinTheknow. And then I have all the different links to all my different pages from there. I'm on Facebook here and there, but ultimately Instagram is my spot.
Perfect, man. That's great. Direct attention and focus on one thing. That's something I've definitely not been able to do effectively. I know people use it as like a website and they use it as a landing page, but I love that. All right, man. I'll point everybody to your Instagram, and I appreciate you, man. I really think this is going to help a lot of people, and I look forward to catching up with you more. And if you ever need anything from me, I'm here 100%.
Likewise, Rodney, I do appreciate you, brother. It's a beautiful thing to see what you're doing for this world and your contribution, just being your best self, and yeah, grateful to be your friend.
Dope, man. Well, I'm going to hit the recording stop here, and I'm going to see what your address is because I'm going to send you one of these shirts.
Cool. All right.
All right, big man. We appreciate you. Thank you guys for tuning in. This has been Josh Morin. Looking forward to giving more interviews of impact here in the very near future. Boom. And